What's up guys, it's me Jeremy. When a win rate of a champion in League of Legends happens to float above around 56%, that's usually a very clear indicator of a champion being pretty overpowered. As we count down the list, keep in mind that we will only be looking at win rates from Season 1 onwards, and we're only looking at win rates that lasted at least a full week. In addition, these win rates aren't exact, but they definitely are within 1% or so of the original win rates. Also, really quick guys, I'm giving away a Razor Deathstalker Chroma and $100 worth of RP in a giveaway with some friends. Check the links in the description for more info if you want to try to win some RP or a sick Razor keyboard, and it's really easy to enter, so check it out. Anyways, let's get started. Number 10 was Ahri at 57%. After receiving a significant buff in patch 5.2, Ahri's power skyrocketed to a ridiculous level. She was given a lot of utility and some quality of life changes that made her abilities easier to land, and so despite removing the damage amplification on her charm completely on that patch, she became the best mid laner in the game and dominated the champion pool. As well, she became a prime example of something that showcases that utility is much more valuable than damage, in proving that the utility that she received in the change was much more beneficial than the 25% nerf of her entire damage combo on that same patch. Number 9 was Sejuani at 57.5%. In patch 5.5, Cinderhulk was added to the game, and it gave Sejuani a really powerful tank who already had decent damage, crowd control, and utility in her kit, the exact solution she needed for her problems in the jungle in helping her with her clear speeds. Being the forerunner of the new tank meta that resulted from Cinderhulk being introduced, Sejuani's crowd control and utility allowed her to completely outclass everyone and truly shine as an insanely powerful champion for quite some time until she received multiple nerfs. Number 8 was Sivir at 58%. After patch 3.3, Sivir received a visual update and a small rework to her kit that buffed the hell out of her and allowed her to shine through as a prime utility AD carry. With her spell shield as a super powerful defensive tool and her ultimate to dominate teamfights, Sivir emerged as a total power pick with this patch after being out of the meta completely for quite some time. Her kit was well-rounded, and her ultimate made her reliable, even in the hands of an inexperienced Sivir player. And since that rework, to this day, she's remained one of the strongest AD carries in the meta ever since, due to her utility, power, and reliability. Number 7 was Zyra at 58% as well. On release in patch 1.0.0.143, Zyra was a mage who happened to have ridiculously overtuned numbers, and so the amount of damage she was putting out comboed with the nice crowd control in her kit made her an insane mid lane and support champion. With fairly low cooldowns, her high damage values gave her some really strong DPS, while still having some insane burst damage combos. And with high ranges and fairly low mana costs, she was able to dominate pretty much any lane you put her in, and is seen as one of the strongest releases the game has ever seen. Number 6 was Rumble at 58.5%. Funnily enough, this happened on the exact same patch as Zyra's release, patch 1.0.0.143. And this is probably the only win rate on this list that wasn't entirely obvious as to why it occurred, because it didn't happen as a result of a change. But Rumble's crazy win rate was a byproduct of a strong kit with very strong numbers, culminating with a meta shift that allowed him to really shine through as a top lane AP bruiser. His ultimate at the time was quite ridiculous, to be fair, and the way his kit works allowed him to have some crazy damage spikes and some powerful utility as well. And so after receiving no changes at all really, his win rate spiked up and led to an eventual string of nerfs that lasted for the entire rest of Season 3. Number 5 was Xin Zhao at 59%. Release Xin Zhao was what I listed as the second most overpowered champion of all time, and he certainly was the most overpowered release ever. In Season 1, when this guy came out, he had absolutely insane numbers, scaling utility, and just about everything else bundled up into this monster of a champion that Xin Zhao clearly was when he came out in Season 1. It's quite insane that this guy existed in this state for a whole 2 weeks, and Riot certainly regretted the state they released him in too. Number 4 was Warwick at 59.5%. After Devourer was added to the game in patch 420, Warwick's jungling power skyrocketed quite heavily, but he actually wasn't seen as too overpowered. In fact, Warwick on that patch is probably the weakest champion on this list. But he was a huge byproduct of being super easy to play, and by being just a little bit overpowered comboed with the extreme simplicity and ease of use of his kit as a champion, any player could pick up Warwick and totally wreck players with him, and most people had a really easy time succeeding with him as a champion in the game. Number 3 was Rammus at 60.5%. Similar to Warwick, this Rammus win rate on patch 3.14 was a huge product of a champion who was just a little bit overpowered, but happened to be ridiculously easy to play. With a point and click taunt that lasted 3 seconds by the time he maxed it out, it's no surprise that this guy dominated the game through crazy ganks and really powerful team fighting. All he had to do was just get in range of someone and click on them to ruin their day completely, and from the help of his Powerball, that wasn't too difficult of a task at all. Number 2 was Talon at 62%. With the update to Black Cleaver on patch 1.0.0.152, Talon was the clear benefactor, as stacking what was the most overpowered item ever really comboed well with Talon's kit, which at the time still had a silence and had much higher damage and scaling, resulted in a monster of a champion that really was just a sole byproduct of Black Cleaver being overpowered as hell. And as an assassin, he definitely wasn't as easy to play as some of the other champions on this list, so it really goes to show how much he actually benefited from the item. It was just the perfect thing for his kit to build, and being able to stack it just made it that much better. And number 1 is Skarner at 64%. Being the most recent champion on this list, in patch 5.16, Skarner received an update as part of the Juggernaut reworks that led to him having an insanely powerful kit. His playstyle switched from that of a tanky supportive jungler to now being that of a carry jungler with really high damage, but still retaining his crazy utility in his ultimate, and now having a very easy to land stun that also slows, overall coming together to produce the kit of a champion that totally dominated the game. Skarner had everything it takes for a champion to have a high win rate. He's overpowered as hell, he has crazy utility and damage, and tankiness, and to top it all off, his point and click ultimate comboed with his tankiness as well makes him super easy to play, and almost anyone with basic jungle understanding can totally dominate with him due to his lack of weaknesses and ridiculously powerful strengths. And so at a whopping 64% win rate, that makes Skarner on patch 5.16 have the highest win rate in League of Legends history. The agent to a game that he sure to lose. Major symptomatic flaws due to twisting gutter flips and bats and forth and it's time. I know it takes some money, those are paper. Keep in mind we just skip the ship well far along the way.